Are you interested in building a career in the development and humanitarian sector? Then, Strategia Netherlands is the best option for you. We offer training solutions to the United Nations, governments, NGOs and other development organizations worldwide. Make your online application now for Diploma in Monitoring and Evaluation, Diploma in Grants Management, Diploma in Conflict Management, Diploma in Disaster Management, Diploma in Water Sanitation and Hygiene, and many more. The cost for diploma courses is 800 euros, while postgraduate courses cost 1,200 euros. Visit www.strategianetherlands.nl for more information.
Good morning everyone. So good to see you in good numbers. Good morning, you could just raise your hand, wave. We are also giving time for others to join. A very good morning, a very good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Yes, I see you, I see you, I see you. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for finding time to be here. I believe we're not a bad number. We could start with the people that have joined the early birds for today. First, I introduce myself. My name is Ruth Venza from Strategia Netherlands. I'm so humbled and grateful for this day and the fact that I'll be your moderator for the day. Thank you so much for availing yourselves, for finding time. We're gonna have to take like 5 minutes. It's 11 or 2, 10 or 2, depending on where you are. So we'll take 5 minutes just to have the people here do a verbal introduction. I can see we are 32, we may not finish. So at the mark of possibly 11, 10, 10, 10, we're gonna have to stop the introductions, but we give ourselves the priority because we are early birds, right? So how we do it, you raise your hand, then I will mention your name and possibly you can tell us where you're from, where you're joining us from, and just a brief description of your interest in WASH. Is it practice? Is it just an interest? Is it just an intriguing topic for you? Let us get to know you just as briefly as we can. Thank you so much. I can see a twin Rachel. You could unmute yourself and kindly introduce. Awesome.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I am Rachel Twine and I'm based in Uganda. I've been in the field of WASH for almost 10 years and I'm currently doing an independent consultant in WASH here in Uganda. And I have been so much specifically in the refugee settlements of Uganda and the hosting communities of the districts where refugees are being hosted. I am happy to be here. It's an interesting course to join and learn more from my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you so much and welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
You could raise your hand if you're ready for introductions. I will be introducing the facilitators, the speakers for the day, so those ones can wait. But the rest of us, we can, Mishak Rua, we can hear you out.
Good morning, I am Mishak Rua from Mozambique. I'm sorry, let me put my video on. Okay, I am Mishak Rua from Mozambique. I've been working for WASH for more than 3 years, and I pursue to have more information on WASH, and I work for a religious organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mishak. Thank you so much. Who's our next?
Hello.
Feel free to introduce yourselves.
Hello, good afternoon. Here is in Afghanistan. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Muhammad Naeem Rahimi from Kabul, Afghanistan. Working with Afghan Health and Development Services, an organization. The organization is working for health of the community and also for water sanitation, hygiene, and mostly for the health.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much and welcome. Zahangir, if you're not comfortable introducing yourself, possibly you can just write on the chat. We'll be able to read. Emmanuel, your hand is up.
How are you? My name is
Hi. This is Jahangir Alam from Bangladesh. I am serving at Care Bangladesh in Shufal project. Basically, this project is for early warning system strengthening.
Hello
Thank you.
everyone, my name is Sam Abdullahi from Jigawa State, Nigeria.
Okay. You've been making strides since we started. How many KMs have you done so far?
Hello, Sema.
How are you, Usama?
I'm fine. How are you?
You've been working since the webinar started. I
Yeah.
wonder if you're on your job or what's up. Welcome so much, Usama. We'll take Emmanuel and
we
then
have a problem of network. That
Sorry
is
about
why
that.
we are not to hear you well.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Can take Emmanuel and then Abdul. Emmanuel
Hello?
Uruba. Unaweza mute Usama. Abdul Azim. Abdul.
Hello. My name is Abdul Azim Hamidi. I was working as a sanitation and water specialist in gate organizations. I was connected from Kabul, Afghanistan.
Okay, thank you so much and welcome. Salad Diba.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Salad Diba from Kenya. I have been in the sector for close to now 5 years, and I currently work with ACDI Evoca as a wash specialist.
Awesome. Thank you so much and welcome. Emmanuel, your hand has been up. Please take the floor.
Yeah, okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Uruba. I've been in WASH for 7 years now, and I'm talking from Abuja, Nigeria, and hope I'll see how the meeting goes as we proceed. Thank you.
You're welcome, and I'm pretty sure you'll find value for your time. Yeah? Okay, so we can take Winfore Ngambi. Winfore Ngambi, we still have 2 minutes. Winfore, if you can hear me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello. It's Winfore Ngambi from Malawi. I have been in WASH for 50. Hello, hello.
I think we lost him. Francis, as he possibly figures his internet. We can have Francis Imoro.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Francis Emoru, I am Director of Programs in Iraq, Kenyan by origin. And my interest in WASH spans from my 10, 12 years experience doing WASH emergencies, currently managing a big WASH program integrated with food security and mental health and psychosocial support. So pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's take Kankan and Washibia. Those will be the last participants to introduce themselves verbally. So Kankan, please unmute yourself. Or Washibia, whoever is ready, can take the floor first. They don't seem to be ready. Okay. Mohammed Ali, give you a chance.
Yeah, hello everyone. This is Muhammad Ali from ADO, Yemen, Sana'a. We have been working in WASH sector for 29 years. We've been working in sanitation, hygiene related to education and health facilities, also on infrastructure and sewage networks. So we're interested to hear, your theories and perspectives about WASH in this meeting. Thanks.
Awesome. Princely Gemo, I can see you raising your hand like physically. Kindly just introduce yourself.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm calling from Cameroon, and I am from Cameroon. And my name is Princely Gemo, as you rightly said. I work with the Cameroon Baptist Convention Health Services, precisely now working at the Makenene Baptist Health Center beside the center region of the country and close to West region equally. I have been in WASH for 4 years now, from Yaoundé at our hospital before coming over to Makenene 2 years back. And my interest in WASH is actually community engagement and hospice care equally on the issue of water purification, hand hygiene, and hand washing. Those are my interests in WASH. And I just want to, when you talk about Strategia Netherlands, I am also taking a course right now on meal planning with Strategia. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here to learn more and to help the community out there that are actually in lacking need of.
Awesome. Good to see our students on the platform. Thank you so much for joining us. We are way past the mark we had given ourselves for introductions. So we'll need us to move with speed so that then we spend our time efficiently. If you haven't introduced yourselves, please do not mind. You could actually do that by chat. You can chat us your introduction, we'll be able to see it and possibly read it out if time allows. So for now, we'll go straight into introducing the topic for the day. And the topic for the day is basically in WASH. I'm pretty sure everybody saw the webinar. We all saw the poster. Sorry, I'm losing thought. And I need to introduce our speakers for the day before I move on. The first one will be Elizabeth Wamboi. Elizabeth Wamboi is a specialist in WASH. She has a rich profile and a wealth of experience in WASH. She has been able to spearhead a whole organization, which possibly should be telling us more about. But just to briefly tell us about her, she's the founder, Program and Planning Director of WASH Voice. WASH Voice is Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Voice for Women. She supports the organization's project and programs, as well as assists in the shaping of emerging issues and external engagement at WASH Voice, which is her organization. We have the pleasure of having her this morning, this afternoon, this evening, depending on where you are, with her taking us through financing situation in sanitation in Kenya. We have that particular ecosystem because that is where she comes from. So Elizabeth Mwangi, I will want to welcome you to take us through the financing sanitation. If you can hear me, please unmute yourself and welcome so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ruth, and welcome everyone to the webinar. As Ruth has said, I am the founder and the program director for WASH Voice, Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Voice for Women. And as much as it is Hygiene Voice for Women, we also deal with all WASH matters. I am an alumni of IHE Delft. I can see many of my colleagues and classmates who I was with in Delft, and welcome to the webinar. This discussion is not just about me. I think all of us have our experiences, and this is just about Kenya because this is where I work. This is the space I am working, but I hope it resonates to most of us who are in the WASH space. First, I want to describe what sanitation is. And sanitation has many meanings depending on where you stand. But this specific discussion will be on sanitation as management of human waste, and specifically human waste that is managed in situ, on-site sanitation. When you talk about sanitation, in most constitutions and in many parts of the world, sanitation is a human right. But it ends up as just a discussion on human rights, but when it comes to provision and service delivery, it no longer resonates to most governments. It is not universal, meaning that it is not treated as a human right. In Kenya, under the Constitution, Article 43 in the human rights, it is stated as right to adequate housing and reasonable levels of sanitation. The question is, what is reasonable levels of sanitation? In many circumstances, and especially where we are standing today, we are more oriented in building houses, adequate housing. Sanitation has been left behind. And this has been left behind because there are issues in financing sanitation. Unlike housing where you can sell a house, people will live in it, sanitation is treated like a personal matter. And yet, it has direct impact on public health and environment. And I think the cliche these days is about climate action and climate management. And yet we are not taking sanitation seriously. So when we talk about sanitation provision or sanitation services, every one of us, regardless of where you stand, we are using sanitation, we are removing waste 100% because it's a biological process. As long as you eat, you'll have to have the need for sanitation. And yet, only 26% of the sanitations of the human waste is properly treated. So what happens to the rest, the 74%? So if we say it is a biological process and therefore 100% of the population has the need for sanitation services, and only 26% is safely managed, what happened to the rest of it? And that is what we are talking about, the impact. In Kenya alone, we lose about $244 million per year due to premature death related to poor sanitation management. And 27 more billions, all this $324 billion million US dollars are lost annually due to poor sanitation. So if you look at those statistics, even in terms of finances, you realize there is quite a big gap in sanitation management. And yet, the cost implication is quite high. So why do we have the gaps in service provision or sanitation service provision? Number one, the government structures are not in tandem with the requirements of sanitation management. The policies, the regulations and standards are not adequate to meet the requirements of sanitation. The other thing is the cultural factors. Sanitation is very personal and community-based, and therefore, cultural beliefs have serious implications on the management of sanitation. And household decisions, especially because the cost of sanitation is not a key factor that is considered when people are doing their budgeting, and especially in poor households. Technology is also provided. Sometimes the designs are not palatable or are not compatible with the needs and the uses of the people. And to be specific, I have not seen any sanitation technology that takes care of menstrual hygiene. And yet, menstrual hygiene, taking it that 50% of the population is female gender, who will menstruate 12 times or more per year, and that is not taken care of, that clearly tells you that there is a serious gap in designs and the innovations and service delivery of sanitation technologies. The other one is sector coordination, and especially when you're discussing in situ or on-site sanitation. The on-site sanitation is a whole continuum, what we call the sanitation service chain. If we work in silos, if every component is left on its own, it means the safe management of sanitation will not happen. So there has to be an inclusive sanitation management from the start to end to ensure that sanitation is safe. And there is also need for government support. Most governments treat on-site sanitation as personal issues or oriented to households. they are stuck on providing sewerage services. And yet, especially in Kenya, we have only about 16%, if not less, of sewerage coverage. And this is for very good reasons. Number one, sewerage services are very, very expensive. And therefore, for a growing economy, it is not practical to have everyone on sewerage. The other thing is, it is not, developing sanitation services is also not practical in some areas. Because in different terrains, the sewerage system will not meet the needs because either it is low or it is too high, and the geology or the topography of the area is not good for sewerage services. So that means that if the government does not really reorient its sanitation procedures or sanitation policies to meet the in situ or on-site sanitation management, then the possibility of 100% coverage will not be possible. The other gap is on information dissemination, and this also speaks to the sanitation value chain. If there is no flow of information, even along the sanitation value chain, the possibility of having a universal sanitation coverage is very low. And then coming to the bottom line, which is the financing gap in sanitation provision. One of the reasons that sanitation provision becomes impossible to finance or not palatable for financing is how we assess bankability of sanitation services and the type of institutions that also analyze bankability of sanitation. As you have seen previously, there is a lot of money spent by not managing sanitation safely. And yet we cannot translate, we are not able, or institutions are not able to translate that loss into bankability assessment. The other thing is that the government, as I had said earlier, are so oriented to sewerage services that only cover 18% of the population, that they give very low or if any budget for on-site sanitation. Actually, in Kenya, the only budget that has been given for on-site sanitation was for CLTS, the community-led sanitation, total sanitation, which to some extent worked, but to some extent did not work. And the balancing of resources, especially in WASH, because WASH means water, sanitation, and hygiene, is more on water and probably hygiene when there's an outbreak. And therefore, sanitation is left on its own. Despite the fact that sanitation will lead to water pollution, it will also lead to hygiene, poor hygiene management. And also, if sanitation is left to households, the household ability to finance sanitation is very low. And even if they do, they end up with very simple sanitation services, what we call unimproved sanitation services. And therefore, the impact, as we saw, goes back to very high costs, as well as poor environmental management and poor public health. So when you talk about sanitation financing, we look at the bottom statement, sustainable sanitation infrastructure and systems. But we forget that for us to be able to have sustainable sanitation infrastructure and systems, there's a whole lot of things that we also need to finance. But because in terms of bankability, it is not, we are not able to see the returns, then they are left out. We need to have clear policies for us to be able to have proper sanitation financing. We need to do advocacy. There's need for proper regulations, not only for the demand side, but also for the supply side. There's also need to capacity build on service provision, on sanitation uptake, on technology use, on technology development, on innovation development. If there is no capacity building, we end up with sanitation technologies or a sanitation market that is not aligned to the needs, or it is not aligned to the uptake of the finances that have been provided. Political commitment also needs to be financed. You would ask, why would we need to finance or to capacitate political commitment? Because political commitment is the engine that drives the whole sector. If there is no political commitment, there will be no policy, and there will be no uptake for sanitation management. And therefore, political commitment is key. And the other one is the consumer rights, which is more related to regulations, but on its own standing, that we think about consumer rights at very primary level, including at the household level. And also information is very, very critical for sanitation financing and for sanitation uptake. And of course, as we will see later, sanitation financing has to be balanced between demand and supply. If either of the two engines are not working, then it becomes impossible. Remember, financing is not only from a philanthropic position, but also from a business point. And for business to make sense, the sanitation uptake, both at demand and supply, has to balance. So what do we need to finance components and technologies? Number one, taking you back slightly to this, we'll be looking at studies. To do a study probably may not give open results in terms of return to investment. But if the studies are not done, that means that the whole system of sanitation financing may not be compatible or may not be acceptable, because sanitation is dignity. Remember, human beings, sanitation is not, how would I put it? It's not ambience. It's a need. And it's a need that comes with, that comes with some level of humanity or a human right. And therefore, the service provision has to meet the human needs, and they have to be compatible with environmental needs. And I want to take an example of if we develop sanitation services that will pollute the environment, or that will not provide an environment that is compatible with the people living around it, or it is not compatible with gender, women rights, or children rights. That means the uptake will be low, and therefore the demand will be low, and therefore the financing will also not make sense. When it comes to infrastructure financing, over the years, especially because on-site sanitation has not been taken up very seriously, people tend to just make innovations that are not user-friendly or not applicable to communities, and all have no orientation to public health objectives, all that may, and in most cases, harm the environment. So if they are not compatible, if the infrastructure is not compatible, and the technologies, they will appear for a time, they will be hyped, and eventually the innovations will die. And this has happened in many parts of Africa. An infrastructure comes in that is very well hyped, people uptake it, but within 2-3 years, after the donors have left, people don't take it up again because it did not meet their needs. And therefore, for any infrastructure to be properly financed, they have to be compatible, they have to be sustainable, they have to be replicable for the future, and they have to meet all the expectations along the sanitation service chain. The other component is on regulations. This financing has to be compatible with government policies and acceptability. They also have to be intersectoral, that by meeting sanitation needs for one sector does not, I would want to give an example of CLTS. When it came to public health, it was important that human waste is contained, and it is contained in a manner that it does not harm the environment physically, and I would say physically. But eventually, in some cases, it became so harmful because, number one, the water levels were very high, and therefore it would affect the water supply. And therefore, it does not meet the intersectoral management. It meets one sector, it may meet the public health objectives, but it did not meet the water supply objectives. And then regulations have to be, the financing has to also be community acceptable. If the community do not accept the infrastructures that have been financed, eventually they'll not be sustainable and they'll not be compatible with their needs. So when we're looking at bankability of sanitation provision, including technologies or systems, we need to look at the cost benefits of it. And as taking you back to what we had discussed, if you look at the impact of not having safe sanitation, it is very high. So whether it is government financing or private sector financing, it has to look at the costs, and therefore the people who are interested in the overall cost of sanitation provision should be able to look at it as a bankable project. The feasibility and attractiveness of sanitation technology or sanitation financing. Marketability will come to it when we are looking at the demand and supply side of sanitation, profitability and potential financial returns. If you look at through the sanitation value chain, which I should have put here, you will see there are areas that are profitable. If you look at probably transportation of waste, treatment, reuse, may have potential financial returns. But there are other components within the sanitation value chain that may not have potential financial returns. But remember, it is only that if the first component does not work, even the profitability of the rest of the components will not be achieved. So attracting financing from the bank and investors needs to be aligned to bankability of the sanitation provision. And mostly that this is where spending money on philanthropy comes in, where the government now makes it very deliberate to make sanitation a marketable investment. How do you make sanitation attractive for financing? First, we have to look at what we used to call the clues planning. The government support. The government has the responsibility to support sanitation if it is going to make it attractive for financing. The other thing is we have to put legal and regulatory frameworks and institutional arrangements for it to be applicable to be up for financing. We have to develop skills and capacity. This not only in service provision, but also in demand and supply. And the financial arrangement will have to be in such a way that the return to investments is calculatable and able to be replicable. When you look at the picture on your right, where we look at the demand side and the supply side, the demand side, we almost look at it at household level or institution level or government level. And this is where the starting point is. How do we capacitate households to be able to have sanitation services? How do we capacitate households to be able to have ambience and to be able to uptake demand for sanitation? And if that is possible, are they the ones who are going to pay for the supply side interventions? And how are they going to pay for them? And this means if the households are poor, what kind of a capacity building do we need? Or what kind of financing would they need to be able to put it through the sanitation value chain? Is it possible that interventions, the last part of it, the interventions can also be part of the products that can be sold by households to be able to finance themselves? Over the years, we've been saying that we can recycle, we can reuse sanitation, products. But does it make practical sense? Does it make financial sense? And if you think about it, if it makes financial and practical sense, then the supply side of the intervention can very clearly be, the household level can be able to meet the supply side intervention of it. And therefore, when you look at the possible financiers, if you're working from a bank, what would be the gaps in financing sanitation? As an investor, what would be the gaps in financing sanitation? Or what kind of financial institutions should we have to finance sanitation. How much public funding would we need to complement the private funding for sanitation? And what would development partners fund? And as I've said earlier, there are parts of the sanitation value chain that may not make practical sense in terms of profits. Is that where the development partners should come in? Or what public-private partnership would make sense for sanitation provision? And these are the questions that, if you're going to think about sanitation financing, they are very pertinent questions to ask ourselves, whether you are a bank, an investor, a financial institution, a government, or a development partner. So challenges in financing sanitation in Kenya. Number one, as a growing economy, poor households are not able to finance sanitation on their own. In 2016, the government said there will be no subsidy for sanitation and most public services, and therefore there has been no, and therefore the sanitation has become difficult, especially for the poor. So what would be the remedy of that? Developing pro-poor policies for sanitation access, and especially because sanitation is not personal. When it is not properly managed, all of us suffer from it. The other problem is knowledge and information. Most people and most investors do not know what goes into sanitation and what are the advantages, and because the information is not properly shared. And therefore, there's requirement to do a lot of advocacy and create awareness in sanitation financing. Accessing sanitation financing is also a problem, and especially because, as we said earlier, bankability. So there need to be content-specific microfinancing for now before sanitation is uptaken as a real market. So low multi-sectoral effort and the sector coordination mechanism have been, and especially for Kenya, there is no sector coordination mechanism, and therefore, when a person is constructing a toilet or even say a septic tank, they do not take into consideration the emptying, the transportation, the treatment, and therefore we end up with sludge that cannot be used for reuse, or septic tanks that are constructed in a way that they are not easy to empty. And therefore, if there is low multi-sectoral coordination, then it means that the whole value chain cannot be served, and therefore it reduces on ability to finance sanitation. So let's think about innovative financing. Henry Ford, the founder of Ford vehicles, said, if I had been asked by my customers what they want, if I had asked my customers what they wanted, they would have told me a faster horse, because all they knew was a horse. But because of his imagination, he realized that he can make something better than a horse. So as professionals in the sanitation sector, it is important to think beyond what is existing and see, within the knowledge we have, within the financial requirements and sources, and with proper planning, how we can improve sanitation financing to be able to cover everyone in sanitation and ensure that public health and environment is well protected. Thank you very much, and I am open for any questions.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elizabeth Ongoi, for the presentation. I believe we've learned quite a bit on financing sanitation. We will take a bit of time in the Q&A on the same topic. If you have any questions, maybe you can raise it.
I stop sharing?
Yeah, you can stop sharing. Then stick around for the question and answer. We possibly can take that for 10 minutes and then we go to the next part 2 of the presentation of the webinar. Our next facilitator is already on board. So if the questions are taking a bit of time, we can delve direct to that and then maybe take all the Q&As in the end. Is that okay? I could use a nod, I could use a hand, just to see if that's okay. Yeah, people are saying thank you very much for the insightful presentation, Elizabeth. I'm waiting for questions, guys. Waiting for questions. Mostly I'm seeing comments. If we can get questions, as you think about them, maybe we can go to the next phase of the presentation of the webinar, where we invite our next presenter. Bigger, can you hear me? Bigger, I want to introduce you. Can you hear me? I saw him.
Hello, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Welcome so much, Bigger. We want to take this opportunity to welcome you to the webinar. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. We cannot wait to talk shit. Yeah. The next presenter is called Bigger Lundgren. My apologies if that is not the right presentation, right pronunciation of your name. I'm really struggling to pronounce Swedish names, but yeah. Bigger tells me to call him Bagger. He'll tell us why he has to be called Bagger and not Bigger anymore. But what I'm more intrigued with is the conversation he's about to have with us. I will not delve so much into it. I know he can do that himself. Thank you so much, Bigger, and take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And can you see the presentation? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, I can see it. Yes, yes, I believe we can see it.
I just want to say, how long time should I talk? So I don't talk too much.
We gave you maximum time. So we are here for the next, now we have 1 hour and 18 minutes. So possibly you can take the hour, then we do the last 18 minutes wrapping up with Q&As. Is an hour too much?
Okay, I try to be a little bit effective, but I don't want to like, but we start. I've been in the software industry for 30 years. And I moved to South Africa about 20 years ago and working in the software industry here. And we will start. I'm from Sweden and my name is Birger, and you can't say it. And when I worked in the software industry, they changed name of me to Burger, like a hamburger. So I've been a burger for like 25 years at least. And everyone knows and loves hamburgers, so it's easy. Anyway, we have a little house on our in Sweden, and what we did was we installed a dry toilet about 5 years ago, a Swedish toilet that's developed for the archipelago. Stockholm has about 27,000 islands. And it's a dry system. And when I used it the first time about 5 years ago, I was surprised how much I really enjoyed it. But I'm coming back to the toilet itself and talk about a little about the journey and why I started going from software into pee and poop. We had a draft here in Cape Town 2017, 2018. And it was they were talking about the day zero when the water is out, and the last part of it was like we have 50 liters per person a day, and they developed something that said if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. So it meant that we're not flushing our toilets when we did number one. And what's happening was that the whole house was smelling of pee. And my wife found out through, I think it was on the internet somewhere, you can put the shaving foam into the toilet and you pee on the shaving foam and it didn't smell. But what we did was taking one of the toilets that we have in our house in Sweden. You see it on the right. There's a flush toilet that separates the urine and the poop, and using an average of 1 liter. So we installed that toilet in our house here outside Cape Town, and it works well. And we were using so little water. Then we bought a shower, They're using only 2.7 liters of water, and we put a nozzle on our taps and saving enormous amount of water. So this 50 liter of water was not a big problem for us. And then we decided just to start like a small side business to import these products. And what's happening here was we started a company and we was selling, this kind of products in a small scale. And we got the telephone call from Coffee Bay in rural South Africa. And the lady you see on the pictures on the right in pink, Dawn, they have 2 pit latrines. You see that on the picture there. They were full, so the kids were defecate around the school. And to defecate around the school is not a really good idea. So she wanted to have one of these toilets, but they didn't have water all the time, and they were dependent on rainwater. And a flush toilet needs water. Well, you can use it for a while, but it's not very nice to clean it, or it will not work in the long run. Anyway, what we did, I will come back to that, but what we find out when I start to research the sanitation industry, and it was when we have the COVID here in South Africa, we have something called lockdown. They closed everything almost, and you were only allowed to be in your house. And everyone remember how like you were a combination of scared and didn't know find out what's going to happen. So we decided to go to Sweden for 8 months and stay in our house, and our son went to the Swedish school. And I researched sanitation during that period of time, reading reports from morning to night, look at webinars, and internet is fantastic. It's so many webinars, it's education. And I started to look into like the sewage problems, the sanitation problems, and realize it's enormous. Even in the global north with like wastewater plants, they don't work as people think. It's not clean water that comes out into lakes, rivers, and ocean. It's actually full of nutrients that creates algae blooms. And what I found out in one research is like the nutritions and the pills and hormones affects the marine life. So for instance, some fish species develop only one sex. So you can call them like gay fish. I don't know if they have fun as gay fish, but the biggest problem, they don't reproduce. And then everyone knows about the plastic problem with the oceans full of plastic. And here in South Africa, regarding water and energy, is a long story, but we have been several places in South Africa have problems with water and water scarcity. And we have something they call load shedding here in South Africa the last years. They just turn off the electricity in areas for like 2 hours, for 4 hours. So if you have like manufacturing or production or something like that, you are into deep trouble. Suddenly you can't run the machines, etc. And when you go into the school environment in Africa, you see on these pictures here like how toilets can look. And if you the one with the 2 boxes on a corrugated plate, a steel plate, it's not too bad actually. You have a 360-degree view at least, and you can chat with your friend. But it's not very safe, and this is the hole under the corrugated steel is about 4 or 5 meters, and walking on that is not very nice. And also when you come into like what I found out in my research is that girls, when they have the menstruation period, they don't go to school because they have no place to take care of if they have like a menstruation accident, for instance. So we need the girls in schools in Africa, well, all over the world, actually. In the bigger picture, we talk about, where is the output from toilets going? And here in several countries in Africa, they call it marine outfall. And one of the fanciest addresses on the African continent is here in Cape Town, Camps Bay and Clifton. And Camps Bay, you can buy, like for millions, beautiful houses with a view over the ocean, and it's a very beautiful place. But when you press the bottom of the toilet, the output goes into a pipe, and they call it a grid, a marine outfall. So when you ask someone how it works, they say, well, it goes through the pipes, we have a grid and we have a marine outfall. And that sounds in some way like a solution. But what a marine outfall is a big pipe that's just pushing out from the toilet, pee and poop directly into the ocean. And the solution is dilution, and that's not a good solution. And what we also find in the research is, like in several countries of Africa, they empty the toilet tanks and they go to the closest river and empty it. And then people need to use the water for drinking. And of course, people get sick. Of course, people get diarrhea. And in the end of the day, people die. I touched based on the marine life, but one of what I found out is with pit latrines, for instance, and the emptying of pit latrines. And that's a horrible and terrible story how these workers, and hats off for them, but they normally are underpaid and they are treated not in a very respectable way. But handling output from toilets or from people like this you see on the picture is, I think, is the toughest job in the world. And one of the research reports was from Kenya, where these people they put like a matches and to get the gases from the pit latrine to like blow away. And then they put petrol in a rug and they use the rug in front of the mouth to avoid the smell. And I think this is a horrible way to treat poop, well, not taking care of poop. Okay. When we come into the schools, where we focus on is, of course, what I touched base by earlier, menstruation management. We also find out about dehydration. If it's not possible to have like drinking water when you go in school, I found reports where people, that goes quite quick. If it's warm, it's hot in the classroom, you have a math test to do, and suddenly you can't think because you're not drinking. And especially young females in schools, they don't drink water because they want to avoid to go to dirty and disgusting toilets. And of course, how important it is to have access to running water to wash your hands, to keep you clean, and so it's a combination of different things in the school environment. I think most of you on this call are know about like the diarrhea and cholera that is especially in Africa and also in Asia, and according to UNICEF, it's like 1,300 young children die every day. And this is like figures that are, it's so difficult to understand them. And the whole idea is here, whole idea is to find solutions that can handle it.
Hello.
One of the things I was digged into was neglected tropical diseases. And I have never heard about them until I really researched. And if you see the picture of the white fellow, Ascaris, it's so difficult to find on a microscope. But it's about 1.3 billion people are affected of this intestinal worm. And if it comes into your body from your hands or whatever, it's in poop. The female can produce 200,000 eggs the first 24 hours. And what's happening is that this kind of worm can grow to a length of 30 centimeters. And sometimes when you see like kids in Africa with big bellies, it's not big bellies because they have too much food or too much beer. It's actually lots of these kids have the stomach full of these worms. And if you open it up, it will look like 4 portions of spaghetti. And what's happening in the next step is like they eat the food that the children are eating and take up the nutrition, so the kids can't grow as they should. And in the worst case scenario, they go up to the lungs, can come out of the nose, and go on the internet, look at the picture. It's one of the most disgusting things you can see. And it can go up to the brain, and then you have big problems. So sanitation, good sanitation take away lots of these problems. But these problems are all over Africa and in other many regions all over the world. During my research period, I found a report about reports in sanitation. And between 2000 and 2018, this from the University of Illinois, these 3 gentlemen found more than 56,000 reports and studies about the sanitation problem. And we don't need more reports. We know the problem. We need to find good, effective solutions. So, as we say, let's talk shit. And what we have developed during the last almost 4 years, we call it the new generation on non-sewage sanitation. You know, sanitation without pipes, okay? And we have just launched in South Africa 4 weeks ago what we call the WASH Center, and I will explain what it is. When you recognize the toilet from my little cottage on one of the pictures, but it's a technology when you separate pee and poop, and it has a flush functionality, so you get like a flush experience. But the poop goes into a black chute into a container, so it's so-called container-based sanitation. And it's a fan that runs 24/7, so it evaporates the water from the poop to make it dry and it doesn't smell, smells more like compost. And I got a text from one of our clients here in South Africa on WhatsApp when he used it for the first time. To have a beautiful off-grid house at the river here in South Africa. And he said, Berger, I can't even smell my own shit. And that's part of the solution, you know, like the fan is sucking out. So it's very nice to be the second person coming into the same toilet room because the smell is minimized compared to like a waterborne toilet. And on the right picture up in the corner is a small nozzle. That nozzle is a Swedish technology saving 97% of water. So this is a very water effective solution and perfect for areas with water scarcity. And the flush for the toilet is 100 ml. So to wash your hands, flush the toilet, you're using about 300 ml of water. In South Africa context, the same amount is about 9 liters for flushing a toilet, and it's about 3 to 4 liters to wash your hands proper. So how do we do it? Well, I'm born and raised in Sweden, and Sweden is the country of IKEA, big furniture company where everything comes in flat packs. So we are inspired of IKEA and of Lego mechanics. So when the slab is done, we put together an aluminium construction, and it takes about 2 days to install toilets, basins, walls, floors, roof, and this is day 3. And if we come back to the plastic problems and what we can do with plastic, all the walls, floors you see on this picture is plastic you can't recycle. It's a mixture of, we have 2 different types. One is a mixture of plastic mixed plastic like toothpaste tubes when you have an aluminum lining. Nobody wants to have that to recycle new products, but we can do like very nice boards, building boards of it. And we can also put like a thin film to make them in nice colors. The other quality we are developing right now together with the manufacturer is a combination of mixed plastic and straw. So you're building new materials and reuse things that normally goes to landfill. So just to summarize, what we do is like we have worked to find a way to do like a world-class user experience. A user experience both for presidents and kings and celebrities, but make the world a little bit better for the kids in schools in Africa. The building technology to quick, fast, and on the World Toilet Day in November, the theme was accelerating change. And we literally see that we can accelerate the change of making and building toilets. The waste collection that we have developed together with SLU, Swedish Agriculture of Science, is a new method, partly, to take care of the poop and transform it to fertilizer. So we have a safe treatment of the poop so you can reuse it in agriculture. So closing the whole loop with resource recovery. So a little bit about the organization Sanitation Ambassadors. It's like 4 parts. It's education, both about health, but also how to use toilets and so on. And it's also the service of the containers, treatment and installation. When you come to younger kids, and I talked to a lady about like 5, 6 years old, and I said, who loves the turd? And the kids were laughing and said, nobody loves the turd. I said, yes, there's someone that loves the turd. And we had a discussion about it. And I said, if you take away the bad guys in poop, and flowers and trees love it because it's like Kentucky Fried Chicken or macaroni and cheese. It's the perfect thing for flowers, nutrition for the flowers. And when you talk to young people, they understand it. But if you talk to like grown-up people, they don't want to talk about pee and poop, and they don't want to talk about shit. But I think it's important that we start with the young because they understand much more, and they're more positive, if I say so, to transform things and to do the world a little bit better. Back to the soil. It's so interesting because if you just take poop, it's so much carbon in poop, and the soils in Africa need all the carbon it can get. And we are now in a very interesting project regarding urine, that we transform the urine into pellets, because urine has a very high level of both nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And that's the perfect fertilizer for agriculture. So back to the soil, instead of having it as a big problem and spreading diseases, treat it and back to the soil and reuse it. If we summarize what we do, and we say, eat, shit, grow, and repeat. And then you get the full closed circle, and lots of the problem disappears, and you turn waste into something usable. And I think that's the way to go on this continent. This is Camp Hill Village outside Cape Town. We installed a 3-seat unit. It's 2 toilets and 1 urinal. And it's a rainwater tank that supports the water. The interesting part, because we're using so little water for both hand washing and for flushing. So that tank is 2,500 liters. And if it was in the school context, we have calculated. It's about, if you have a standard South African flush toilet and a standard tap, that tank will last in the school environment about 2 to 3 days. Then it's empty. With our technology, with the toilet, with the low flush, with the nozzle and the time delay tap, that tank will last for about 45 days. Not 4 to 5 days, 45 days. So it's a quite good technology, especially if you are in areas with water scarcity. So make shit happen. And if you're interested, go into sanitationambassadors.org, and we will gladly answer questions. We are gladly to deliver wash centers, and it's a unit that is modular, so it can be one single unit, it could be like 2, 3, 4, or you combine them in as much as you want. So that's a little bit of what we're doing here in South Africa. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation on sanitation without sewage or non-sewage sanitation. Thank you, the participants, for holding on up to now. We're going to have a short interlude just to relax our minds as we get to know more about Strategia Netherlands. I'm going to ask my colleague Janet to lead us in the very short session of like 5 minutes. Janet, if you can hear me. This is adult learning, so we also want to be engaging. So after immediately she's done, then we're gonna go to the Q&A. We'll first take the ones on financing, sanitation, and then now we come back to non-sewage sanitation. Janet, we're giving you time to come on.
Thank you, Ruth, for the opportunity. Thank you for such a good presentation. Thank you to all our presenters for such a good presentation. And I'm here to talk about Strategia Netherlands. And Strategia Netherlands is an international organization that offers various trainings on various levels, such as short courses, postgraduate diplomas, certificates, and diplomas. And we have trained over 10,000 professionals from around the world. And so our organization is mainly deals with training and consultancy to humanitarian and development organizations worldwide. And we train individuals from the United Nations, from governments, from non-governmental organizations worldwide. So the levels of our courses include short courses. We have diplomas, we have certificates, and we have postgraduate diplomas. So the certificates, the duration is 3 months, and the cost is 500 euros. For diplomas, the duration is 6 months, and the duration is the cost is 1,000 euros. And for postgraduate diplomas, the duration is 12 months, and the cost is 1,500 euros. We also have on-site workshops in Rotterdam, Netherlands, which go for 4 days. You can check out the information on our website, and the cost is 2,000 euros. So we have qualified training managers and academic managers. So the courses that we have include strategic planning, monitoring and evaluation, project management courses, data analysis, and such kind of courses. And water resource management, and water sanitation, and gender poverty and development and then development courses, food security program. And we have good news during this period of Easter holidays. we are offering a discount of 20% to everyone who will enroll in the month of April. So to take advantage of this discount, all you have to do is send an email to send us an email to info@strategianetherlands.nl and mention that you attended the webinar and mention that you would like to take advantage of the discount that we are offering, and we will respond to you promptly and offer you the discount. So this discount is running only up until April. So kindly register now to take advantage of this discount. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet. I believe we are informed on what Strategia Netherlands involves and what we teach and what we do in terms of capacity building for our humanitarian staff. So I believe the presenters are still holding on. We could take the first questions. I'll just read your question and then the facilitator will answer. I'll start with the last one. Actually, I see Elizabeth has been busy trying to answer them, but then only the people that were not listening to Bigger were there. So I'll want us to just read the questions again, and then you can answer for everybody. So Andre Santos asks, what is Elizabeth's take on revolving funds as a financial mechanism?
Thank you very much. As I was listening to Bigen, I was also responding. So I was also listening.
Welcome.
And what has been happening is that revolving funds have worked very well for the water sector, for the water supply, and especially, and I would say it's because most people are interested in water supply as opposed to sanitation. So I think with a lot of awareness of the impact of sanitation at household level and why there is need to uptake, just by creating demand for sanitation at household level, it would work perfectly for sanitation coverage. And I think this I should call on government to be able to promote sanitation more. Over the years, water supply has been more on the front, right? Even in terms of government funding. The government has tended to fund water supply more than sanitation. And therefore, orientation has been more on water supply, clean water supply to sanitation. Yes, it will work, but it will only work if there is demand creation at household level or institutional level.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Francis Emoru is asking, considering the capital investment required for developing sanitation infrastructure and lack of appetite by the government to give incentive to this, are there private sector motivation to develop community-based or community-led sanitation infrastructure? Do you have cases on this approach?
It has been there, and especially when we come to commercial buildings, sanitation infrastructure for on-site sanitation have been in Nairobi. I would say where I live, we have only about 18% sanitation, sewerage coverage, and most other people are on in situ sanitation management. And there has been a lot of uptake for funds from even private sector for building, and especially for commercial buildings. But I would say, and especially because there is demand that if you're doing a commercial building, commercial residential, commercial institutional building, there has to be some level of sanitation that has to be provided. So yes, there's a lot of uptake for public, from private financing for sanitation. But when it comes to rural areas, that has been a little skewed because, as I said earlier, creation of demand for sanitation. But yes, it can work. It has worked with the community-led sanitation, total sanitation, CLTS. And this happened because there was a lot of enforcement from government. So with a lot of creation of awareness, advocacy, and a bit of government intervention, it would work and work perfectly.
Thank you. Salad Diba, how can microfinance and community-based financing models be utilized to improve sanitation in undeserved communities? Thank you. Salad Diba, how can microfinance and community-based financing models be utilized to improve sanitation in undeserved communities? Thank you. Undeserved or underserved? Underserved communities.
My answers seem to be rotating on the same.
Yeah.
Demand. Because microfinance also has worked very well, and especially in Kenya, we have what we call SACCOs. And if you want to know how much uptake from microfinance has been happening in Kenya, there are very many microfinances, almost 5 times more than the banks and other combined with other financial institutions. But these microfinances, they would tell you that they have, we did a small study and very few of them are lending for sanitation. Number one, because there's no collateral when it comes to sanitation financing. What would they take back in case you're not able to pay? What is the bankability of financing sanitation? So creation of demand again and creating bankable projects will obviously improve uptake of sanitation financing from microfinance. And remember, microfinance, especially in Kenya, most of them are guaranteed by members. So for me to guarantee you to take a loan for sanitation, I need to be sure that if you don't pay, there's something I can come back for. So if there is nothing I can come back for sanitation or something that I can't recover, then it becomes almost not possible to guarantee anyone to take financing from microfinance for sanitation. But as Bigen has said, if it is true that we can do recycling and we can do reuse of products from sanitation, and that can form a basis of financing, then that can form a basis of financing sanitation, because I am able to sell the products. Or if there is that connectivity of my sanitation byproducts can be sold to create a product that is sellable, then that can create a business case.
Okay.
I can just add to that. We are looking into based on my software background. You know, when you bought used Photoshop like 20 years ago, you bought it. Excuse me. And nowadays you have something called SaaS, software as a service. If you buy Photoshop from Adobe, you're paying like one fixed price per month, and you get the updates and everything during this period of time. And we're looking into a concept we call sanitation as a service, a subscription fee, because in a household, the technology we use for schools, you empty the container, let's say every 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And if you do like a subscription base, so you pay a little bit upfront, and then you pay a monthly fee for the toilet itself. And if you need the superstructure, and for the service, then you have like a subscription fee, and you pay per month, and more can afford it quicker. And it's also easier to finance with like microfinance, or if like some big player can go in and be a guarantee for the amount of money. And certainly after a period of like 3 to 4 years, depending of what kind of installation it is more or less paid. And then the cost can drop from when you paid off and go down only to the service level. So that's an alternative also to look in as a subscription fee, and also if you can take care of it from A to Z. Because what we see lots of, especially in African countries and also in Kenya, is like people are building pit latrines. And I was in a project now and had a discussion when they were building like 50 pit latrines for a school. And it was actually from Holland or Netherlands, an organization that paid for the toilets. But what they find out, if they build 50 toilets, they will contaminate the water body for a whole village. So suddenly you solve one problem and you create a much larger problem instead of, like taking care of, as we say, taking care of the shit from the start to end. Okay.
That will be a good conversation to have later, Bilgen. I'll be happy to contact you.
You're unmuted.
Sorry about that. We'll take 2 more questions for Elizabeth, if you allow me. So Maridit Tabuko, and of course, I've been skipping a lot of comments where people are saying it's an insightful presentation. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the insightful presentation. All that is being said, so people are really appreciating your presentation. So Maridit Tabuko is asking, hope we can also collaborate on how we can support grants in terms of on sanitation, provision, and sustainability. Thank you for the proper reach.
Okay, that is great. We'll be happy to do that, but not bad. It would be great to also demarcate what fundings should do, because we seem to, like Bilgen has said, we seem to be giving funds for provision of services instead of for the basic things of maintaining a system. And provision of services, people may be able to pay for it, and especially if the systems are well, will properly work, that they will not contaminate the whole village. But when we do service provision with the grants, that it means the key things that need to be funded by grants, like studies and systems and regulations, are left out. And with that being left out, systems will also not work. The basic systems will also not work. We end up with public toilets or with toilets that within 3 months, they have to be removed because they are contaminating the whole community. So I think the other thing also, when we are discussing financing of sanitation, is demarcating what private funds should do, what public funds should do, what donor funding should do. And that way, then there will be a balance on sanitation system management.
Okay. So as I take the last question for Madam Elizabeth, we would want also to encourage you to send in the questions for Bigger. He's still seeking around for those. So this is a comment come question. Atwin Rachel is asking, very true, is saying very true, MHM on sanitation promotion has been neglected. And I feel it's high time WASH proposals should always be incorporated with MHM, not always treated as a by the way. I believe you've commented on that.
Yes, I commented on that. The only one more comment I would want to make. I am yet to see an innovation, sanitation innovation that takes care of gender issues, and especially when it comes to menstrual hygiene. So beyond now just having systems, if the systems are going to be compatible with users, they also have to take care of the whole facet of people, whether it is age, whether it is children, whether it is women, so that as we said, sanitation is dignity. So if sanitation systems do not dignify the individuals, then we are not able to create demand for them, and therefore we are not also able to create financing mechanisms.
Wow, okay. So your questions may be over, but not over, depending on the participants. So if there's still a pressing question, please send it in. Kindly, Elizabeth, stick around for whatever question we might get in the end. Maride Tabuko, you're asking for capacity building courses. Is it open for scholarship? Question for capacity building question courses. Is it open for? This is Maride from Fields. So in case there's any confusion, let me just clarify this. You're going to have to write to the info@strategianetherlands.nl email for all your queries regarding courses. We offer a variant selection of courses, just as my colleague Janet had earlier just taken us through. In case of any place you were not very comfortable, rather you didn't get quite it, you can be sure we will be able to reach out to you on that info@strategianetherlands.nl email. Also workshops and French, they're all listed in your chat box. Kindly take note of those. They'll be of good help. Yes, we are offering a scholarship in the month of April for all our courses, so long as you are on this webinar. That is just specific for the people that joined in on this webinar. Yeah, there's another question for you, Elizabeth, as we wait for Bigger's question to at least get to 6. Elizabeth, how do you suggest this same approach to the refugee communities? Do you have success stories? If this is if any idea has been sold to the refugee hosting countries. This is Upton Rachel. Thank you.
I would want to take a case of what we're doing in Kakuma. Sometimes refugee camps are just created temporary, hoping that things will change and they will go back. And they span over 30, 40 years, like we have in Kenya. And it gets to a point that then the country policy has to include them in terms of management. But it becomes tricky because the funding to refugee camps or the funding to the vulnerable community is not specific. I mean, it's not from the government. So the only thing that happens is that the government gives guidelines, and especially in relation to the environment around them. But I think it would be important from my perspective that before any services are provided for refugees, or before that sanitation services are taken into consideration early enough, and especially in terms of disposal. So that, and because as Began said, there are very many ways of reusing the waste. It would be imperative that refugee camps have technologies, or somebody develops technologies that are compatible with refugee camps, that very quickly that waste can be turned into a resource, and especially because they are not as adulterated as other wastes, because there are no industries, there are no chemicals. The possibility will be organic, so it would be easier to create systems that can quickly turn the waste into usable waste. And Bigen, I think, would be the better person to comment on that one.
Okay. Bigen, please. Elizabeth says we should be able to do this. We can't hear you.
You're muted.
Sorry. Okay, we start again. I'm sorry for that. The bottom of the pyramid, or the book pyramid, I think many of you are aware of it. In the top here is the most richest people, and they have like proper sanitation in the way, like with piping, wastewater plants, and mostly Europe and US and so on. And in the bottom here, we have, like open defecation. And between here is on the market, when I research, it's actually nothing in the middle market. It's you put in like a flush toilet and a septic tank, and you like cost a fortune to empty the tanks, and very seldom the tanks are emptied in the proper way and safe. And with the solution we and our organization is providing is to find the middle segment. And I saw some questions here, what it costs. And they are like, we are working with like several versions. One version is like if you have a house and want a toilet inside the house, then you are like below like 500 US. We are working with a solution we call Wash Express for refugee camps. That the most important is speed, that we can build toilet like super quick, but take care of the end product, the output from the toilet in a safe way. And I think the method we developed together with the university in Sweden is one of the absolute cheapest way to treat poop proper. But I also saw some comments here I thought it was from Uganda, like nobody wants to have human shit in the agriculture. And I get that question quite often. Do you want to spread your poop on strawberries? No, probably not. But if you have like a lawn to mix a treated poop into a compost, and you have like lots of good nutrients in it, good for a lawn, it's good for flower beds, It's good for if you're growing hemp or bamboo, because bamboo, for instance, you don't carry what kind of nutrition you use for bamboo. So I think it's a little bit, like the output, if we can make the output look nice and neat, then more people will accept it. But if you have like the stigma around it, you just can't dig it down because it's safe to dig it down and just let it be, or preferable, plant a lemon tree or an apple tree on top of the pile you have created under the soil, then the problem is solved. Okay.
Thank you. Makes a lot of sense.
I would want to make just a small comment. There's one of our students in Meru University in Kenya did a study on black soldier flies, feeding them from poo and using them for chicken feed. Fortunately, the farmers were acceptable with it because if you think, I don't know where other people come from, but if you think where we come from, what the chicken eat when they're outside, it is worse than the black soldier flies from poo. They actually take poo directly. And also in Kenya, the use of briquettes made from fecal waste have been accepted without any problems. And also the fertilizer have been used for farming. And mostly because it has been tested and it has been realized, it is worse to use chemical fertilizers than the conditioner from fecal waste. So for us, for us, I think it is more acceptable with knowledge.
That's good. When they tested this method, they did actually test some years ago. We have taken that technology and developed further, but they did test in Kenya actually for coffee bushes, and they put the out from the toilet around the coffee bush, and what they find out was the yields was much larger. But the most interesting part was that the quality of the coffee beans was a higher grade. So they got more pay per kilo for the coffee beans, and they got larger yields. And I think if you're doing like coffee beans and you can have larger yields and higher quality, then it makes sense to do it. And especially now, I saw a research here in Nigeria where the mineral fertilizers is more than doubled in price in 1 year. And the mineral fertilizer is like a big discussions in the academia world, and because they need to dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and the cost of the mineral fertilizer is going up. So we need to find alternatives and good solutions. And if we can combine this, solving the shit problem and convert it into a resource, suddenly we have enormous amount of nutrition for agriculture, and we have sorted problems. So we kill, as you say in English, to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And if you add, like dignity and health, we're killing a bunch of birds with 1 stone.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that contribution. So we go straight to your questions, Bigger. And Jimmy Felix is asking, Bigger, what is the total cost of constructing the latrine?
Several different ones. The Wash Express is the cheapest with the superstructure and everything. It costing, no, I have rands in my head, but around $1,000, I think. Yeah. And if you have the toilet and the system in a house, like a normal flush toilet, it's around just below $500. And if you're building like we compared with brick and mortar buildings. Sometimes people say, like, if you just buy a toilet at builder's warehouse or whatever it is, it's cheap. But it's not the system. It's just a share with a hole in, and it doesn't take care of the problems. Actually, when you push the flush button, the problems actually start. So and what we found out in comparison with different solutions, we are normally between 50 to 60% cheaper than any of the commercial solutions for sanitation. But we're working very hard to find, like better ways, smarter ways to do it even cheaper, so more people can afford it. So that's where we are right now. But we will gladly, send price list or whatever it is. But we have started now 4 weeks ago in South Africa, and we're starting in Nigeria in next month. And we have discussions with Ghana, Burkina Faso, Kenya, and Uganda for the moment that people are interested in to find a new way to take care of sanitation problem.
Okay. I have a question from Atwin Rachel. I feel like we've answered this question, especially the second part. It's a two-part question. Both of you, Elizabeth and Bigger, have answered it, but let me just read it. Bigger, do we have some notes on breaking the barriers, on making shit happen? That's the one I don't think we've answered, because some communities like here in Uganda don't want to hear that shit is of great value. That one we tackle. So the first one, Bigger, do we have some notes on breaking the barriers, on making shit happen?
As I said earlier, it's about education, so people understand what it is. That's number one. One research report from South Africa for small female farmers, it was 47% of the younger ones that was interested to use the output from humans for agriculture use. So I think it's in different countries, it's different context, different. But I think that at the end of the day, it comes down to price performance. If you can produce high quality vegetables or whatever you're growing to a larger amount of money, and then you just do it. When it comes down to money, if you can produce a good quality thing, you will do it sooner or later. And the people that want to have, I think it's going to change in the next 10, 15 years. We need to take care of the problem and transform it into something valuable that can be used. Otherwise, like in South Africa now, we have 4 million pit latrines that are almost full. And some people call it, this is going to be the shit bomb of the century. And there's very few solutions to solve it. And just moving the shit to other places or pump it into the ocean is not the solution. It's just moving it in front of you. So as we say in our organization, we need to take care of the shit in the proper way.
All right, thank you so much. I'm seeing Maridita Buko say from Philippines, say very good group discussion. Trying to fish out any other question. Thank you so much from Maridita as well. Abuya as well, noted, thank you. Yeah, quite a number of appreciations coming. Thank you from Princely Gemo. Thanks to our facilitators for the insightful presentation. It's very rich and helpful. All right, I believe we've used our time very well. We are just almost getting to the top of the hour, but we have a few minutes which we can use by just appreciating, especially Elizabeth and Bigger, for availing yourself, your resources, your wealth of experience, and also guiding us in this very intriguing conversation about WASH. We have learned quite a bit. I personally have learned quite a bit in WASH, being an area I'm not an expert in. I have gladly had to learn, and I appreciate you for that. Thank you for your time and dedication and cooperation. For all the participants, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Feel free to write to us. We'll be able to, get it on from there with you in regards to our courses, in regards to other webinars that we might have, maybe in M&E, that is monitoring and evaluation, grants and project management, all of this that we offer. So we really hope to see you in the other webinars. Meanwhile, for now, I will give our presenters, Bigger and Elizabeth, just a chance to say their last sentiments and bid us.
I would want to say like Henry Ford, we should not just give a bigger horse because that's what the clients would want. We need to think outside the box. And like Bigger has said, if we have 4 million, did he say 4 million toilets that are getting full in South Africa? And if I think about the problems we're having of fertilizer in Kenya, if we combine those two, then we need to get a Ford car. We don't want a bigger horse. We need to make that become our fertilizer resource in the next 2 years so that we don't start running around getting fake fertilizers for our farmers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and have a good one. Bigger?
I think, we focus first of all for schools in Africa, because the next generation people that goes in school today is the next generation of leaders, and we need well-educated young people that will take Africa to the next level. And at the same time, according to science or research, we're going to be like a couple of billion more people on this continent, and we need to feed them. And we need to have the kids in school healthy, and we need to take this to the next level. So we can't implement solutions from the global north because they are too expensive, and we will not reach the people. And if you look at the SDG goals, we are the backlog of sanitation is enormous, and the backlog is like when we had the Millennium Development Goals, it was backlog. The SDG goals backlog. So we need to focus on new solutions and new thinking, and I think we are a part of that movement. So more people that start to get into this movement to change the world and make it a little bit better. And we focus on schools, and in the second hand, like in the second phase, households. So join the movement and talk about it. And as we say, let's talk shit and make shit happens. That's my take on this one. Thank you so much.
Wow, quite powerful, quite powerful. Thank you so much for providing your insights and intriguing conversation. I want to call us off and say that the webinar has been a success, courtesy of all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so privileged to have you. If you need anything from Strategia Netherlands in regards to our short courses, our postgraduate courses, our diploma courses, kindly do not hesitate to reach us through the email provided. Thank you so much once again, and have a blessed day. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Are you interested in building a career in the development and humanitarian sector? Then Strategia Netherlands is the best option for you. We offer training solutions to the United Nations, governments, NGOs, and other development organizations worldwide. Make your online application now for Diploma in Monitoring and Evaluation, Diploma in Grants Management, Diploma in Conflict Management, Diploma in Disaster Management, Diploma in Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, and many more. The cost for diploma courses is 800 euros, while postgraduate courses cost 1,200 euros. Visit www.strategianetherlands.nl for more information.